Hello everybody, welcome to Tiger Tales, a place where you'll find fan fiction and original stories written and read to you by your host, me, Tai Tiger. Welcome to another Power Rangers story, a new Power Rangers story. If this is your first Power Rangers stories of mine, welcome. Today we're diving into a new universe, and this story takes a twist on Power Rangers Super Megaforce, on where the Rangers actually failed and the Armada won, and 56 years had passed. And in this story we'll find out a new set of heroes with a unique set of twists. So stick with me and I shall show you a magnificent new world. Let's dive in with Power Rangers the Magnificent Megaforce. Chapter 1, A Magnificent Beginning. 56 years ago, the Armada invaded Earth and took over the planet. The legendary team known as Power Rangers Super Megaforce failed to protect the Earth and were never seen again. The world had broken down into districts, and the human race was broken down and forced into slavery. Many different factions were made: farmers, miners, bakers, construction workers, weapon cleaners, hunters, and many more. In District 21, many miners were at work. The massive town had reduced to rubble. It was once Hardwood County. It was the first place the Armada attacked and where the Rangers had fallen. Ozzy was hard at work, mining his way at a pile of rubble. He was stationed outside of the town. He was swinging his pickaxe as hard as he could when suddenly he made a small hole in a massive pile of rocks. He squeezed his hand through and started pulling out some of the bigger rocks, and he managed to move some of the rocks to one side to reveal a hidden room in the ground, completely destroyed underneath ground level. Ozzy looked left and right to see if any of the security guards were watching, and he made sure the coast was clear before he squeezed himself through and landed in the room. His land echoed throughout the room. One side of the room had caved in completely. The other half of the room just brought more questions. On both sides were walls with rows of empty shelves upon them, and at the end of the room was a broken tiki face. It was huge, grey and cracked. Ozzy walked up to the big tiki face and stepped on something. Ozzy looked down and to find a small red ranger figure. He picked up this strange looking object and looked at it. He started fiddling with it when suddenly the legs flicked open, folding the figure in half, revealing the key. "What is this?" Ozzy asked himself. Suddenly, several voices came from above. "Oi, you, come up from there," a voice called down. Ozzy panicked and shoved the Red Ranger key in his pocket, then started climbing out. It's okay, it's only me," Ozzy called out as he pulled himself out of the caved-in room. Stood in front of him were a few X-Balls and a stonefish-themed Royal Guard member called Redka. The Super Megaforce Power Rangers defeated him before the invasion, but he was resurrected not long after the Rangers' defeat. "What are you doing?" Redka growled. "I was mining and found a cave-in. There's a room of some kind down there," Ozzy said. Redka signaled the X-Balls to explore what Ozzy had found. A couple moments went by, and an X-Ball came up and spoke to Redka. "You found what?" Redka barked in anger. He then turned to Ozzy and grabbed him by the shoulder. "Do you know what you found?" Redka asked. "I have no idea," Ozzy replied. "He just found the cave of Gozei. You just found his remains," Redka told him. A realization hit Ozzy. Then what he found was a Power Ranger key. Ozzy knew all about the Rangers as it was part of history lesson when he was in school. Ozzy swallowed hard. He decided not to tell anyone what was currently in his pocket. Gozei died many years ago, and rumor has it he hid the last source of his morphing grid connection with him. "Did you find anything in there, human?" Redka asked Ozzy. Ozzy just shook his head. "Round everyone up. Someone here has found it, and we will find out the truth. Someone must be lying," Redka barked. After a couple of minutes, all the miners and workers were lined up and on their knees, including Ozzy. "Now who's been near here? Has anyone seen anything fishy? We are looking for something. Now this thing could be anything really, but it would be very powerful and very important to the Emperor," Redka said to the human workers. "Now we know someone found something. We could make this very easy for you, or very hard." Redka hushed. Ozzy started panicking. He knew what Redka was after was in his pocket, the ranger-shaped key. Redka walked over to someone and told him to stand. Then when he did, they both started whispering. The man looked like he was getting annoyed. Then Redka backhanded the man, knocking him off his feet. Then he walked down the line and stopped at another person. They also stood and they also started whispering. The man pointed at Ozzy. Redka told the man to get back on his knees and walked over to him. Up on your feet, Redka barked at Ozzy. Ozzy slowly climbed to his feet. His hands were shaking, but something told him not to give the general the ranger key. Did you find something in there? Others are telling me that you were there for a good couple of minutes, Redka asked. I was only looking around, and I found nothing, Ozzy lied. I don't believe you, Redka growled. Redka grabbed Ozzy and dragged him across the work area and dropped him. Hey, I told you I didn't find anything, Ozzy snapped. Silence, Redka snapped back. Redka punched Ozzy, sending him flying back, and he hit the ground hard. Ozzy climbed to his feet, then realised that his pockets were empty. He looked over to Redka as he was picking up the ranger key off the ground. Hey, no, don't touch that. That belongs to me, Ozzy called out. Then Ozzy ran at Redka, who was analysing the red ranger key. Ozzy ran at the monster. Panic flooded through his mind. Suddenly, a beam of light ripped through the clouds and hit the ground, dividing the monster and Ozzy. Suddenly, a morphing master stepped out of the beam and struck the monster, knocking the key out of his hand. The key fell to the floor and Ozzy rushed to grab it. I got it, Ozzy called out. A morphing master? And here we thought you gave up on this earth, Redka growled. We did not give up at all. We were just merely waiting, the master said calmly. Then the master turned around and faced Ozzy. Ozzy, you have found the ranger key. If you take it and take the task, you must find all the keys and relinquish the grip the Marder have over the districts and work together and bring the world together. Once more, the master said to him. Ozzy looked at the key and grinned. Oh, hell yes, Ozzy cheered. I'm glad to hear it. Your guide to the keys is on his way. He has something for you, the master told him. My guide? Ozzy questioned. You shall see. Become the hero the world needs, Ozzy. Find the keys. Find your team and save the district, the master told him. With that, the master flew into the beam of light and the beam vanished. Ozzy looked down at the key, then back at the monster. Get here, boy, Redka roared. Uh-oh, Ozzy said. Deep in the forest, hidden away in the temple, was Albert. He was meditating on a rock, focusing on his breath.
Hey, come see this!
Jason called out. Albert opened his eyes and ran over to the monitor, which he built over the years. The ghost of Jason Lee Scott, the original Mighty Morphin Red Ranger, and the Zeo Gold Ranger stood there watching the monitors with him. On the monitors, they could see a big beam of light that hit District 21. Is it happening? Albert asked.
Yeah, look right now.
Jason said. Okay, let's go, Albert said. He then pulled out a box and opened it. He placed a ring on his middle finger on his right hand, then picked up a phone-like device. Albert ran and watched as Jason vanished. Then he threw on his cloak and started running. He left the temple and ran through the forest, and within a few minutes he jumped off a cliff and landed on gravel. He landed on District 21. He saw the beam of light disappear.
We have to hurry,
Jason's voice called out. Albert nodded and then started running again, heading for whoever the morphing master picked to be the ranger. Ozzy stood there holding the ranger key so tightly as Redka and the group of X-Board started advancing him. A cloaked figure dived in the middle and landed between them. It's you, Redka called out. The cloaked figure threw his cloak off, revealing a young man in his late teens. He was scrawny but had a few muscles. He wore a black vest and black combat trousers, which were tattered at the bottom. The guy turned to Ozzy. You just saw the morphing master, right? The guy asked. Yes, I did. She said I have to find the keys, Ozzy replied, confused. And save the districts. Yes, I know. I am Albert, and I'm here to be your guide, Albert told him. You're the guide, Ozzy gasped. Yes, now take this, Albert said, handing him a phone-like device. Holy animus, this is kind of like the legendary morphers, Ozzy gasped. Yes, it was built off a blueprint I had of the legendary morphers. Now figure it out, and quickly, Albert told him. He then left Ozzy and the morpher and focused on Redka. I want to destroy you and take that key, Redka roared. "Sorry, not gonna happen," Albert grinned. He then held up his hand, revealing his ring, and suddenly a green ring of energy appeared circling around Albert. The energy moved kinda like a form of code. In the energy ring were a set of weapons, different types, sizes, and colours. They were translucent, and they slowly moved around Albert. He then put his hand in the energy ring and grabbed a sword, and then pulled the sword out of the ring. The sword materialised into a solid form. Then the energy ring disappeared, leaving Albert holding a sword with a red hilt, a Tyrannosaurus power coin in the middle of it. "Power sword," Albert called out.
Remember your training.
Jason's voice said in his mind. "Gotcha," Albert said as he took his fighting stance. The X-Borgs ran at Albert. He swung the power sword, cutting down the first one with ease. He then blocked the attack, then slicing down another X-Borg. Ozzy looked down at this random legendary morpher-like device. He flipped it open and looked at the keyhole in the middle of it. He then flipped the ranger key open to reveal the key and slotted the key in the hole. "Here goes nothing," Ozzy whispered. He then turned the key and the screen glitched, and then the screen showed the Super Megaforce logo, then a flash of light. Ozzy stood there as the Super Megaforce Red Ranger as the light disappeared.
Albert, look, it worked.
Jason's voice said. Albert looked over to Ozzy, who was now the Red Ranger, a small grin appearing on his face. Albert then continued fighting the X-Borgs. He slashed down at one, the power sword sparking off the machine's chest. The red Super Megaforce Ranger looked down at himself in shock. He then looked at the X-Borgs and Redcar. He took a deep breath. He knew this was a chance to change things for the better. The Super Megaforce Red Ranger ran into the fight and kicked an X-Borg in the back. He then grabbed one and threw it to the ground and punched the X-Borg twice in the stomach. He then grouped up with Albert and went back to back. "Looks like you figured it out," Albert said to him. "Yeah, I did, I think," the Ranger responded. "Be sharp. Things are about to get way more intense," Albert barked. The Ranger and Albert stood back to back as the group of X-Borgs surrounded them. "Things just got magnificent," the red Super Megaforce Ranger said. And there we have it, my first introduction to a new Power Ranger storyline. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's a little taste of what's to come. As you can see, it's not your average storyline. It's not a big group of Rangers or anything. There's only one, and Albert. You'll find out more in Chapter 2, so please look out for that. I just want to take this chance to thank the Zero Hero Network, who's a podcast with Bulk and Skull Podcasting, Billy and Jim. There's also Mark, the Red Cornish Ranger, who has Nerd Through Comics, and you'll find some of my Marvel storylines on his Nerd Through Comic podcast as well. There's also Cosplay Dude 637, with his Storytime with Cosplay Dude 637, and now his new Power Rangers Universe 19 podcast on Spotify. He also is the voice of Jason Lee Scott, so thank you majorly to him. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss another Power Rangers Magnificent Megaforce chapter. That's for me, and may the power protect you folks, and I shall see you soon.